Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're doing GWV Sunday Round-Up for today's second video, so it could be your Sunday afternoon eclectic mix of this and that. We're looking at things like sea surface temperature anomalies, solar activity, the QBO, quasi-biennial oscillation, and the Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation, of course, weather next week, 10 days as well. So I'll get on that for you very shortly. Beginning, of course, with the latest situation with Storm Ciara. So things are pretty rough out there this morning. I've seen that there's been reports of power outages. We've got disruption to travel, and it's pretty nasty out there, and the winds are probably going to power up a little bit more down in the south and southeast in the next couple of hours. The strongest winds are sort of across Wales at the moment. Have a look at the wind gusts, see what the biggest wind gusts have been so far. Those winds will probably spread eastwards across the Midlands around lunchtime, and then getting in towards East Anglia, southeast and southern England through the early afternoon. Late this afternoon, the winds will finally start to moderate a little bit. It's not too bad across the far north of Scotland, though. So, just say that the excuse me, the fifth spring update has been released, so that's of course looking at ENSO this week. So we're looking at springs following winters that had warm ENSO neutral to borderline weak El Nino type winters. So have a look at that, see what's going on there. That update will be placed on the spring updates page this evening with a written summary. And we've also got Ensembles Watch coming up this evening as well. Busy old day at GWV today. Right, so starting at xcweather.co.uk, these are our latest wind gusts. You can see we've got very, very strong winds across many parts of the country, particularly England and Wales. Strongest gust of wind at the moment is just there, 87 miles per hour, just off the west coast of Wales. Generally, winds gusting up sort of 60, 70, 80 miles an hour across northern and western parts of Wales, and through the Midlands, eastern England, the gusts are sort of 40 to 60 miles an hour, and I think those strongest winds that have got across North Wales there will spread across the Midlands and into parts of southern and southeast England through this afternoon. As we've been saying, widely 60, 70 mile an hour gusts possible this afternoon across inland, southern England, and around coast, sort of 80, possibly up to 90 mile an hour gusts can't be ruled out around the south coast. It's a very, very nasty afternoon. Not only is it very windy, it's also very wet as well. Heavy outbreaks of rain. This rain picture from Weather Outlook. Loads of heavy rain coming in with this system, Storm Ciara. There's been reports of local flooding across northern parts of the country. You see some very intense colours there. I've seen reports of thunderstorms. I think there's a thunderstorm around Blackpool this morning. Lightning in February, quite unusual, but I think there has been some lightning going on with torrential rain and school lines as well. So it's all happening, everything, and the kitchen sink too being thrown at us by Storm Ciara. One thing that is evident though is despite all of this wind and rain, it is very mild across much of the country. These are the temperatures at the moment, so widening to double digits through the country, 12, 13 degrees. They may lift up a little bit more in the next hour or two, possibly going up to 14 degrees. That's 57 Fahrenheit. Things will start to go a bit cold though later this afternoon in the far north Scotland. You can see that there. We've got the North Scotland just on 4 or 5 degrees. Excuse me, got a little bit of a cough this morning. 4 or 5 degrees in the far north of Scotland, so cold air is beginning to dig in already in the extreme north. Otherwise, it's remarkably mild, but of course it doesn't feel that mild with the strength of these winds and with the heavy outbreaks of rain as well. So wild and windy at the moment. This is how the arpege model, which I think is doing pretty well with this at Weather Outlook, is forecasting things. So this is how it's forecasting for 7 a.m. So around these western coast, gave a wind gust up to around 70 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour or so inland, 50, 60 miles an hour inland across England and Wales. I think that's pretty decent for what's happened so far. Through the early part of the afternoon, that's when the strongest of winds are transferring over onto the eastern side of the country. There we go, we've got 70 to 80 mile an hour gusts in this southeastern corner, probably a little bit more around those coasts. So the winds strengthen further in the next sort of 2, 3, 4 hours, and then into the later part of the afternoon, the wind just begins to die down a little bit into the evening. I mean, it's still very windy, even overnight, with gusts going up to 40, 50 miles an hour across the country, but just not quite as bad as it is today. Tomorrow we could see another spell of really quite windy weather as well around these western and southern coast areas. Again, gusts going at around 70 miles an hour through the Irish Sea. So it's a wild and windy afternoon out there, and of course this is proving dangerous as well. So we have got the weather warnings at the UK Met Office. This is the current situation. Loads of warnings in force, whether it's for wind or rain. The whole country is under a yellow warning for wind. We've also got rain warnings across, yellow rain warnings across sort of northern England as well. But it's really the amber warning that's most concerning for wind. The whole, or many parts of England and Wales anyway, from around Manchester southwards, is under an amber warning. Quite unusual, I said in yesterday's video, quite unusual to see the amber warning that extensive. I can't remember the last time the amber warning was that extensive for wind. Anyway, I think it has happened with a beast from the east for snow, but I can't remember the amber warning being that extensive for wind. And so they are saying, with this, anywhere within that amber warning, which is the vast majority of England and Wales, they're saying it's in force from 8 a.m. to 9 o'clock tonight, by the way. So they're saying Storm Ciara will bring a spell of very strong winds. Disruption travel is likely during Sunday, and what to expect: flying debris could lead to injuries and danger to life. Some damage to buildings, such as tiles blown from roofs, expected. Longer journey times and cancellation as road, rail, air and ferry services are going to be affected, have been affected. Some roads and bridges will be closed. Power cuts with potential to affect other services such as mobile phone coverage. I have seen reports of power outages on Twitter this morning, and injuries and danger to life from large waves and beach material being thrown on seafronts, coast roads and properties. They tell you what to do. What should I do? There are various bits of advice that you can get from the UK Met. We link to this on the links page at Gas Office and in the description at YouTube as well. So if you are concerned about your safety, let's say you've got to go out this afternoon, drive the car or travel about, well, if you're concerned about your safety, then go to the UK Met Office and they will be able to advise you on what you should do. We don't issue severe weather warnings at Gatwick. It's the only place to go for severe weather warnings and to be informed about your safety in severe weather. The only place to go is always to the UK Met Office for that. No other forecaster can give you that level of information. So head to the UK Met if you're worried about your safety. With Storm Ciara, we have got a couple of yellow warnings in force for tomorrow and Tuesday as well. So wind, yellow warning for wind down in the south and southwest of the country. Wind and snow across the northern part of the country. Scotland and Northern Ireland has a yellow warning for wind and snow tomorrow. And then on Tuesday, wind and snow again across Scotland and Northern Ireland. So although the worst of Storm Ciara will be out of the way through the latter part of this afternoon into this evening's, rough weather is going to continue into the days ahead. Given what a remarkably zonal and Atlantic-driven winter we've had, it is quite something that we have got to sort of the 9th of February. And this is our first really severe spell of weather. You would have expected this to have happened earlier in the winter, really, because it has been a very, very Atlantic-driven and zonal winter. And one of the effects of that is that we've seen a little bit of a recovery in Arctic sea ice extent. I don't think the thickness is all that good, but certainly we are seeing a bit of a recovery in Arctic sea ice extent, because what this mild Atlantic-driven winter does, it produces the westerlies through the mid-latitudes with the strong jet stream, but to the north of that, we keep the cold air bottled in over Greenland and over the Arctic. This is from the National Snow and Ice Data Centre, which of course is part of NOAA. So the blue line is current Arctic sea ice extent just here. So if I overlay the long-term averages, let's do 2011 to 2019 first. So you can see we are now quite substantially above the 2011 to 2019 Arctic sea ice extent average. So we have definitely seen a recovery in Arctic sea ice extent in terms of the 2011 to 2019 average. Let's put in a rather older average, which is 2001 to 2010. That's this black line just here. You can see we're actually very close to that now. So I think we'll probably reach that in the next day or two. I think we will reach the 2001 to 2010 Arctic sea ice extent average. So doing pretty well in terms of Arctic sea ice extent. As I say, I don't think the thickness is all that good. For that, you'll probably need a coolest sort of summer and probably another winter like this next winter, and then the thickness would start to stage a little bit of a recovery too. But certainly for extent, we are doing quite a lot better. However, to put things in context, if I show you the 1991 to 2000 average, that's this green line, you can see it's well below that. And of course, we're going to be well below the 1979 to 1990 average. That's that orange line. So it puts it in context that, yes, we are doing better compared to more recent averages, particularly the 2011 to 2019 average, and we're very close now to 2001 to 2010 average. But we are well below the very long-term averages, like 79 to 1990 and 1991 2000. But anyway, it's reasonably good news, I think, that we are seeing a recovery in Arctic sea ice extent. I know a lot of people have been very worried about Arctic sea ice, and it's nice to see that a little bit of recovery is taking place in extent, if not necessarily in thickness. This is from the National Ice and Data Centre. So this is showing Eurasian snow cover and, of course, Arctic sea ice, where we've got all that yellow. That's where we've got the ice within the Arctic. So you see we've got quite a lot to the south of Greenland just there. That, of course, is because Greenland has a very cold winter, as the cold has been kept bottled up by this zonal and strong westerly jet stream that we've had. Also on the east side of Canada, also quite a lot of Arctic sea ice there as well. For snow cover, though, not doing as well across Europe. We have got some snow cover now into the southeastern part of Europe. So these eastern and southeastern parts of Europe have got some snow cover. Quite a lot of Turkey is covered with snow, you'll see. And yes, we have got snow cover now sort of into Ukraine and places like that. But you would expect snow to be in these areas across the far east of Europe and into west of Russia in the early part of February, obviously. But if you go any further westwards of that, say Poland or Germany, really completely snow-free. Most of France is snow-free. Just on the Alpine regions, again, where you'd expect in the mountainous areas, have got a little bit of snow cover there. Southern parts of Sweden continues to do very badly. The snow cover too. Northern Sweden is doing a little bit better. So away from the east and the southeast of Europe, still really, really struggling for snow cover at the moment. But maybe things will improve as we go into the second half of February. We shall have to see about that, of course. Right, moving on to solar activity. This is how the solar disk is looking on outside of this day from soham.net. We have a spotless solar disk, no sunspots whatsoever. We remain at solar minimum, of course, so you can expect very limited sunspot activity. That's what we're getting at the moment. Solar activity is therefore at very low levels and is expected to remain at very low levels for the next 3 days. This is the GWV Solar Activity Tracker, updated by good friend James Ackrill this morning up to the 8th of February. So we've got different coloured lines here, and we have got a new feature with this as well. James has put in this pale green line just here, which is showing magnetic influences in the sun. And it just shows us that even when there's no sunspots, when it looks like the sun is dormant, it is actually still doing something. It is still actually still emitting energy and so on. Our two trend lines are the thick green and thick red lines, and of course they have lifted up a little bit through January because we have had a bit of sunspot activity, very low level of it, but we have had a little bit of sunspot activity through January. Some of those sunspots have been from the old solar cycle, solar cycle 24, one or two of them have been from the new solar cycle, solar cycle 25. There's always an overlap between the end of one solar cycle and the beginning of another. The orange line actually shows each individual day's worth of sunspots, so you can see that, yes, through January we have had a limited number of sunspots. We currently spot this, of course, at the moment, and we're at solar minimum. As I say, we expect to remain at solar minimum through the next few weeks and months. You never know when you've ended one solar cycle and began the next solar cycle until it happens. I suspect it will probably be confirmed by NASA sometime around the summer, maybe. But we shall see. We remain very much with low solar activity at the moment. Anyway, big thank you to James for updating the solar tracker. And this is also been updated by good friend Richard Short. This is showing spotless days on the solar disk. By year, so for 2020, so far, it was very early into the year, so far we have had 23 spotless days this year, days without sunspots. That is 58% of the year so far. 2019 had 281 days without sunspots. That is 77% of the year. Deep solar minimum. I suspect we will see these spotless days increasing through the next few weeks and months, and the percentage will go up as well, I would have thought, as we remain very close to solar minimum. Although we have had these limited number of sunspots through January, some of them solar cycle 24, some solar cycle 25. I think that going to be the exception through the next few weeks and months, and we will see both the spotless days and also the percentage for 2020 going up in the coming weeks, but we shall see about that. Big thank you to James and Richard for sending those through to us. Right, sea surface temperature anomalies. So this is how the sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans were looking when we did last week's Scale Surface Sunday Round. We've got our 3 areas of interest. Of course, we've got the equatorial Pacific Ocean just here, we've got the northern Pacific Ocean there, and we've got the Atlantic Ocean over here. Another area of interest is the Indian Ocean. I'm not going to talk too much about that in the next few weeks, but I'm going to do some research on this because we have been hearing quite a lot about the Indian Ocean dipole, and effectively that's talking about how warm the Indian Ocean has been. And apparently the theory is that when the Indian Ocean is very warm, particularly if it's combined with like a weak El Nino or ENSO on the warm side, then that could be one of the reasons we've had this very zone of winter. Up to this winter, though, we haven't heard much about the IOD. We haven't heard much about the Indian Ocean. It seems to be like the buzz thing for this winter. So I'm not sure how much influence that has. I'm going to do research about it over the next few weeks, but it's possible we'll start looking at the Indian Ocean as well when we do next winter's winter updates for 2020-2021. Which will start in September. So between now and September, I'm going to do some research about the Indian Ocean and the IOD. But for the moment, we've got our 3 areas of interest: the ENSO region just here, North Pacific over there, and the North Atlantic over here. So that's how the sea surface temperature anomalies were looking when we did last week's Sunday Roundup. Going to the latest, we can see that in terms of the ENSO region, very much as you were, we remain at ENSO neutral, on the warm side of ENSO neutral, where we have got a little bit of a cooler area just there, but overall the equatorial Pacific Ocean is somewhere on the cusp of like ENSO neutral on the warm side to just into slight El Nino territory. And of course that's what we're focusing on with our spring analogues this afternoon as well. Going further north into the northern Pacific Ocean, we can see that it's continuing to cool down in the northern Pacific. That's how things looked last week. This is the latest. We have seen a further expansion in this cooler than average area in the northeastern part of the Pacific Ocean. Things are definitely cooling down up there around Alaska and then down into or off the coast of Canada and America. Things are definitely getting colder up there. We also have a colder than average area to the south of the equatorial Pacific Ocean as well, just there. So is the Pacific beginning to get itself increasingly towards what may be a colder La Nina type phase as we go through to the summer? It's too early to say. Definitely to the northern part of the Pacific, though, the northeast Pacific, things have gone or are going quite a lot cooler and are continuing to cool down. In the North Atlantic, again, very much as you were compared to last week. That's the situation last week, this is the situation this week. So we can see that this colder than average area in the Northern Atlantic, that continues. Generally quite warm around the tropical Atlantic, especially over towards Africa. Maybe starting to go a little bit cooler over towards the eastern side of America around here. It looks quite limited at the moment. If we go back to last week, though, I think there's been a bit of a cool down in that area. So if we start seeing this area becoming colder as we go into the spring, sort of up the eastern seaboard of the States, if that area starts going colder, this area starts going warmer, and we keep it warm through the tropical Atlantic, then that would start to imply a bit of a tripole. As we move into the spring, that's when the NAO goes negative, or can go negative, when you have that kind of setup in the North Atlantic. So that'll be something to watch, probably more for the summer. I doubt it would have much impacts on the spring, but it could be something to watch for the summer. If we get a tripole going in the summer, particularly if it's combined with a negative AO, if it's combined with northern blocking, that might not be all that good news, especially if we're flipping into a La Nina as well. But lots of ifs and buts about that. It is only a very, very small and limited area that's going cooler just here at the moment. So it's something to watch, but doesn't necessarily mean we're heading into a tripole for the spring and for the summer. Summer Oscillation Index, next is from the Queensland Government and Bureau of Meteorology. This is depicting the atmospheric pressures in the southern Pacific Ocean. It's measuring pressures between Darwin and Tahiti when the SY is in its negative phase. You're in an El Nino type atmospheric setup. When the SY is in its positive phase, you're in a La Nina type atmospheric setup. The 30-day average did move up quite a lot during January, so it was around here at the beginning of January, really quite negative El Nino type setup, but by the end of January it's actually in slightly positive phase. It's dropping down a little bit now, but not going anywhere near as negative as it was through the earlier part of January. These are our preliminary daily returns. These can be adjusted, but they don't tend to change all that much. So these are the atmospheric pressures just here. Again, it's a measurement of the atmospheric pressure between Darwin and Tahiti. It's not driving anything, so in terms just tells what the atmosphere is doing. And this is the overall SOI number. So actually in the last couple of days, the SOI has been slightly positive. And around the 5th of February, also quite positive, or slightly positive as well. More negative there, 3rd, 2nd, 1st of February, going down to minus 15. So we're trading negativity and positivity of the SOI, which probably keeps us at ENSO neutral overall. An update from the QBO, the quasi-biennial oscillation. So this is, again, just an index that's reflecting atmospheric state. This time it's measuring the strength of the zonal westerlies. When the SOI, when the QBO, I should say, is westerly, when it's positive, then you strengthen the zonal westerlies. And we have, of course, very, very positive zonal westerlies, very strong zonal westerlies this winter. When the QBO goes into its negative phase, into its easterly phase, then you weaken the zonal westerlies. This winter is transitioning from west to east QBO, and the number is in for January. QBO, the January QBO number comes out minus 2.51. That's our first negative number that we've had in the QBO since October 2018. So October 2018 saw the end of the last easterly QBO. We went into westerly QBO through 2019, see how the numbers get more and more positive, and then begin to wane late in 2019. So it's not a surprise, we've been expecting this, and yes, January 2020 is the first month of this easterly QBO. At the moment, that won't be having any impacts on the troposphere, because there is a bit of a delay on moving into from one phase to another phase of the QBO. So you would expect the easterly QBO to now power up as we go through February, March, April, and it will continue through the year. I would suspect it will be at its strongest towards the end of the year, or the back end of the year, probably around the autumn time. But the easterly QBO should continue into the winter as well. Normally, these QBO phases, particularly the easterly QBO phase, which is a little bit longer, usually these QBO phases last around 12 to 15 months. So next winter, 2020-2021, will be an easterly QBO, probably a waning easterly QBO winter, but I think the easterly QBO will still be strong enough to have an influence probably on next winter. So from a QBO perspective, next winter should be more sort of decisive towards weakened zonality at the very least. We'll keep an eye on this over the next few months, and we can expect to see the ECQBO getting stronger in the months ahead. And also, this is from NASA, so this, of course, is showing the westerly east QBO phases, where we've got these brown-coloured areas, that's one of the westerly phase of the QBO, where we've got the blue and green-coloured areas, that's the easterly phase of the QBO. You think this is kind of like the top of the atmosphere, that's in the stratosphere at 10 HPA. It's the 30 to 50 HPA level that we're interested in, that's the troposphere. And you can see how this green and blue area is gradually descending downwards into the troposphere. It's taking its time. It has took its time. It's been an extended sort of westerly QBO, this one. Not been an easy transition. But you can see how very gradually these green and blue areas, this green and blue area is extending down. And I think we will definitely see that developing and strengthening. That ECQBO signal will develop and strengthen through the coming months. We'll keep a very close eye on that. Arctic oscillation next. This is how the AO observed and forecast chart is looking. The black line shows where we've been with the Arctic oscillation, red line showing where the GFS ensembles forecasting the Arctic oscillation to go. As with all of the other indexes, the SY, the QBO, this is just an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state, not driving anything. So in terms, just tells what the atmosphere is doing. Had a very, very positive AO winter. It goes on, and in the next few days, the AO is actually going to reach probably record-breaking levels. It's going off the scale there. Talked about this in earlier videos. Going off the scale positive. I mean, it just tells us how very, very strong the zonal winds are this winter, how very powerful the jet stream is. Or when the AO goes into that level of positivity, you can expect the kind of thing we've got going on at the moment, which is Storm Ciara and the Atlantic throwing everything, and the jet stream throwing everything that it can at us. So not a surprise that we're having this very stormy spell with the AO in such extreme positivity. When we go off the scale, then the only place we can go is down. So as we go towards the middle of February, the AO will drop, but still positive, and then it's taking off again, can you believe, into the sort of final week of February. It looks like the AO could be trending really, really positive again. There's certainly no sign of northern blocking there going up to going up towards the end of February. It looks like we keep the AO very, very positive indeed. That doesn't mean we can't get cold weather, though, because we are going to have a cold snap in the next 2 or 3 days as the wind comes off Canada and Greenland. But it's westerly, it's a westerly driven cold snap. It's not sort of a northern blocking type cold snap with Arctic winds or Siberian winds. The NAO is very similar as well. That's in its positive phase and has been through this winter as well. So black line again shows where I've been with the NAO. That's where we are right now. This time we're measuring the air pressures in the Atlantic between Iceland and the Azores. When the NAO is positive, you're going to have low pressure around Iceland, high pressure through the Azores. You'll strengthen westerlies. And yes, we keep the NAO in its positive phase right way into the second half of February, going towards the last stages of the month. So from an index perspective, from an AO and NAO perspective, the westerlies go on. It's been the pattern of the winter. We haven't seen any deviation from this throughout the entire winter, and it just goes on. There's no sign of a change, a fundamental change from an AO or NAO index type perspective. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles. We're looking at Lincoln today. So red line is 30-year upper air temperature average for Lincoln. We're starting off very mild today. As with the strategy, it's really mild with Storm Ciara. The temperature will drop in the next few days, though. We're going to bring the air out of Canada and Greenland. So it's going to be quite cold in the early part of this coming week, up to around the middle of the week. Anyway, then the temperature lifts up as we go through towards the end of this coming week and next weekend. Becomes milder again. And then we're rather up and down. You'll notice this green line, that's the operational GFS run. That was a cold outlier for its midnight run. So I'll show you that in a moment, but it is going to be quite cold. However, it's an outlier. It's not well supported by the ensembles. Actually, most of the GFS ensembles are going milder as we go in towards the last week of February in Lincoln. And as far as precipitation is concerned, just regular precipitation spikes coming through, really. So it remains unsettled, certainly up until the middle part of February anyway. Temperature anomalies from the 9th to the 17th of February, a little bit milder than average for the far south of the country, a little bit colder than average up in the north. Bear in mind that will be based on the midnight GFS run, which we've already established was a bit of a cold outlier today. Precipitation anomalies from the 9th to 17th of February, significantly wetter than average. Some of that will be down to today's deluge from Storm Ciara, but generally the weather is going to be staying in an unsettled mode in the next week anyway. So from the 9th to 17th of February, significantly above average precipitation through all parts of the UK. This is that midnight run of the GFS, so we're bringing winds in from the northwest through Wednesday, quite cold, and wind showers in the north. Then we've got this low pressure coming in off the Atlantic for Thursday. I talked about this in Snowwatch last night. Depending on the exact track of that low, that might deliver a little bit of snow, more like to northern areas, but can't rule it out further south. As we go through to the end of the week, more low pressure drives in from off the Atlantic, so very unsettled into next weekend. Heading up towards day 10, that low pressure then starts to clear eastward, so we begin to raise heights both to the west and also to the northwest as the low pressure clears eastwards, and that starts to pull down a colder northerly wind by day 10, which is the 19th of February. We have already established, though, through the GFS upper air temperature ensembles, that scenario is a bit of an outlier. But it does go colder in the extended range. We build a ridge over the country and then try to move it up towards Scandinavia, set up a little bit of a battle as we get through to the end of the GFS run, which gets to 25th of February today. So low pressure is trying to come in off the Atlantic, but it's coming up against this high pressure over Scandinavia. Probably one of the more interesting GFS runs that we've had this winter, but again, I have to emphasise that is a cold outlier. The 6 o'clock GFS run has been updating as we've been speaking, so this is how we look through Wednesday. Again, we're in a west-northwesterly on Wednesday, quite chilly in the north. There's that low pressure coming in off the Atlantic for Thursday. That's bringing rain. If it stalls within cold air, potentially a little bit of snow on Thursday. Then it goes stormy for the end of next week. And next weekend, more low pressure barreling in from off the Atlantic. So that's back to really unsettled conditions once again. Moving up towards day 10. Again, sort of same idea. We begin to build some ridging in the Atlantic. We've got a bit of ridging in the middle of the Atlantic. It's trying to get itself further north. The trough is becoming centred across northern and eastern parts of Europe. And yes, winds are beginning to try and swing into the north again. If we can extend out beyond that, we find that for Thursday 20th, just beyond day 10, again, sort of trying to build some above average heights up to the northeast. Things are still generally westerly, not looking as stormy as they have been. And very gradually, this area of high pressure does begin to build up from the southwest on the 6 o'clock GFS run. It's trying to get itself towards Scandinavia. This could be starting to show something a little bit colder as we get through to the end of February. Into the last week of February. That's how we look at as we end this GFS run on the 25th of February, 6 o'clock GFS. Probably quite frosty, mainly dry, and rather cold with winds coming in from the southeast. Again, I suspect that won't be well supported by the GFS ensembles. We're going to do ensembles watch tonight, and we will see what all of those GFS ensemble members are showing for going into the last week of February then. This is the GEM, so westerly winds for Wednesday, and then this low pressure comes in, being quite cold air for Thursday. That could be a little bit interesting. Then into next weekend, we start to pick up a much milder southwesterly again. Turns very windy, but quite a lot milder through next weekend, and also wet and windy too. Heading up towards day 10. not much of a mid-Atlantic ridge this time. So you see the GFS is not being supported by the GEM there, generally quite westerly and relatively mild up to day 10. ECM, again, we see that got this low pressure coming in on Thursday. That could bring rain to the south, perhaps a little bit of snow further north. We need to firm up on the detail on that. Next weekend, we pick up those mild southwesterly winds. Turns again quite stormy next weekend, potentially. And heading up towards day 10, that's how we look. Winds remain from generally a westerly direction, not much of a ridge building to our north-northwest. So the GFS is not supported in this colder idea by day 10. It's not supported by either the GM or the ECMWF particularly well today. These are the options on the table in the ECM ensembles today for day 10, which is the 19th of February. So we have 20 members of the ECM ensembles keeping us flat, low pressure to the north, high pressure to the west and southwest, winds in from the west. That includes the ECM control and operational runs as well. 13 with high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north, they're going to be quite mild and westerly. 11 with low pressure more over the country, that's more unsettled, a little bit cooler as well, but not overly cold. 7 with deep low pressure to our north. That's probably the stormiest option for day 10. Everything's still coming in from the west, though, at day 10 within the ECM ensembles. And in 2 weeks' time, these options got this the 24th of February. 26 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure to the north, high pressure to the south. That keeps us in the westerlies. 16 again, high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north. That keeps us in a westerly as well. Probably mainly dry for southern parts of the country, though. And then the 9 just here, these are the driest options. Could be somewhat similar to what the GFS operational runs are doing at this point. Mainly dry and probably quite cold with winds coming in off the continent. Certainly cold enough for night frost, but that's a minority option at that point. And of course, it is 2 weeks away. CFS V2 looks like this. These are 500 millibars heights break down to week periods. The first week period takes from the 9th to the 15th of February. The coming week, obviously very unsettled, stormy, westerly winds, Atlantic unleashed. It's all going on in the week ahead. And into week 2, which is the 16th to the 22nd of February, low pressure again, driving in from the west with those southwesterly winds. High pressure strengthens a little bit to our south, but still very unsettled there for week 2. Week 3 sees ridging building up from the south, so this is turning us drier. Will be very mild and probably quite spring-like, though, with this. Airs wafting up from quite a long way southwest. And then we go through to week 4, which is the 1st to the 7th of March. Nice start to the spring. Above average height centred over just to our south. Low pressure up to the north. Winds in from west-southwest. That will be a very spring-like start to the spring of 2020. The CFS not interested at all in anything colder. So it's just for GFS operationals today, but they're flirting with something a bit colder. But it all looks very, very flimsy and probably very unlikely compared to all the other model output. I did notice commenting YouTube a couple of days ago, somebody asked me why I always seem to downplay colder weather and the chance of snow. And to that person, I mean, I've not got a bias one way or another. It's just purely the fact that you have to analyse the data. And yes, you might have one GFS run that shows something a bit colder. You might have one GFS run that shows a snow event. But if you then put that alongside all of the other data, you will find very often, particularly in this kind of winter, that the colder option is a significant minority option. Whilst I would love to be able to sit here and tell you all of you that want it to go colder and want to have some snow, love to be able to sit here and tell you that we are going to go into northern blocking. I have to be honest and I have to say what we're seeing, and at the moment, say today, these colder GFS operational runs look very, very isolated. It doesn't mean that they won't come off, but, you know, analysing the data, they look isolated, and so to that person, that is the reason why. And as soon as we have a consistent signal, something colder, then fine, I'll be more than happy to go in that direction. So, there we go. Just finally finishing off with CFS V2 for March, and on it goes. So this 700 millibar height anomaly. CFS is going for above average heights to the south, below average heights up to the north. In comes the winds from the west and the southwest, and still it goes on into March. Atlantic-driven weather with a strong westerly jet stream continues. Milder than average March is being forecast. And precipitation-wise, not as wet as it has been through this winter, but I suspect with that kind of pattern, particularly for the north and northwest, it will probably still be relatively unsettled. Right, that's it. So that's GWV Sunday Round-Up for today. The lights were just flickering then, so I hope we're not going to lose the power before I wrap up the video. I better wrap it up very quickly, I think. So that's it for GWV Sunday Round-Up for today. Take care if you've got anything planned with for today with this storm. It's very, very nasty out there. It's a really nasty storm. Things are going to get worse in the south in the next 2-3 hours, and then late this afternoon we will see a bit of an improvement. But you keep yourself safe if you're off out and about at any point today. I'd stay indoors really if you can, but if you are off out and about, then do take care. We'll be back this evening with Ensembles Watch, so come back for that then. That's all for now though, and thanks for watching.